transitioning to our Ignite talk. I'll invite our sister Vanessa to introduce herself and proceed. You're welcome. Please, a big hand to her.
Good afternoon, everyone. The energy in this space is just electric, so thank you for all of your contributions. I am Vanessa Thomas from the Black Feminist Fund, where I lead our philanthropic advocacy. I'm really, really honored to be here and amongst such great company. So thank you for the invitation. I know that 𝗕cie𝗃𝗲𝗁 and 𝗕ms have told us time is of the essence, so I will keep this really succinct and brief. The Black Feminist Fund is the first fund of its kind to exist. Through research, grant making, and advocacy, we are boldly supporting and resourcing Black feminist movement across the globe to continue resisting and building the bountiful, free, and just worlds. I'm delighted to see so many Black feminists in this room and on this program. We're at a really critical juncture, and I know that a lot of these conversations have focused on this locally, regionally, and globally. The fires everywhere feel insurmountable, whether it's state-sanctioned genocides, 2 years to this day of war in Sudan, pillaging in the Democratic Republic of Congo, the very real consequences of the climate emergency, from heavier rains on one side of this continent to droughts in the other, and governments across Africa, in fact across the world, in competition with each other to see who can pass the most draconian, colonial-rooted legislation which rolls back rights and bodily autonomy. In all of these examples, women, girls, and gender-expansive people feel these shocks most acutely. And in spite of all of this, all of us here know that we must channel our energy and resources into the work and into the struggle. And in my sphere, that's philanthropy. So briefly about me, I have fortunately or unfortunately worked in different philanthropic institutions for 10 years now. I have a lot more gray hairs now than when I started, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. I was really shocked, and maybe this was naive, but I was really shocked to find myself navigating a sector that was still so deeply entrenched in colonial norms, paternalism, and a framework of charity, rather than one that's actually rooted in the understanding that all of our suffering is interconnected and that true justice requires solidarity. So before finding my political home at the Black Feminist Fund, I endeavored to be a thorn in philanthropy's side, disrupting these colonial norms from who gets the funding to the very reductive single story narratives that we see. So that's a bit about the I. Now moving into the we. The Black Feminist Fund is a product of 10 years of dreaming. Though formally established in 2021, we were born from a collective of Black feminists who met at important organizing spaces like this and around kitchen tables, lamenting the biggest barrier in all of our organizing and movement work. It wasn't the doing. As feminists, we see a problem, we solve a problem. We get things done. Our interventions create affirming realities for everyone. The barrier over 10 years ago and the barrier now remains funding and the resources that we actually deserve to do this work. I know that I'm in a room of organizers and movement folks, so I'm probably preaching to the choir, but our movements have always been the antidote to the anti-rights machine, then and now. It was bold Gen Z feminists who galvanized the thousands for the End Femicide and Kill the Bill protests. It was women who played critical roles in the uprising in Sudan that ended Bashir's regime and who are now providing the critical safety and life-saving emergency services. It was Black feminist climate defenders in South Africa and in Senegal who've been able to fend off harmful mining attempts and protest climate change. Autonomous feminist movements have been proven to transform society for the good of everyone, and yet philanthropy has never earnestly backed us. So the Black Feminist Fund exists to disrupt this. We're here as a model of solidarity funding. We are mobilizing the resources that Black women and gender-expansive people deserve to continue the world-building, life-saving, and joyful work many of you are part of. We exist to make sure that our movements are working with abundance, not scarcity. I'll say that again. We exist to make sure our movements are working with abundance, not scarcity. not as charity, but repair, recognizing that they cannot and should not carry the hopes and weights of a just world on their own. At the Black Feminist Fund, we see ourselves as an intervention in a sector that pays lip service to justice. In our research, where is the money for Black feminist movements, we looked at the funding flows and it affirmed what many of us in this room already know. We're facing a deeply concerning state of funding. Between 0.1 to 0.35% of money that moves from philanthropic foundations globally has gone to Black feminist movements. 81% of Black feminist organizations do not have the financial resources to meet their organizational goals. Over half have no funds for the following financial year. Zooming into the continent, less than 6% of philanthropic funding goes directly to the movements in this room, so African-led organizing, and 0.08% of overseas development assistance funding goes to gender justice across Africa. These numbers are horrific. There is a racialized funding and trust gap, and when you combine this with funders' ongoing failure to grapple with how layers of power and oppression intersect, Black feminists are constantly left out and left behind. So we have a target of moving $100 million. In our 4 years, we have moved just under 20 million by investing in movement partners who work across 44 countries. For us, being in solidarity and in service to movement means we give sizable and flexible grants over 8 years, enabling organizations to really build, dream, and strengthen the muscles necessary to tackle the multiple crises that we see. Our partners have told us that this flexibility and trust has enabled them to meet this unprecedented moment with the boldness and the strategy that it requires. With one of our 60+ movement partners now able to buy land to build a shelter for women survivors of violence. Being in solidarity for us means that when we saw philanthropy silent regarding the now 2-year war in Sudan, we were able to mobilize our network of Black feminists in philanthropy and have raised over $1.5 million, which is going to life-saving work across Sudan. Thank you. Of course, the revolution won't be led by philanthropy, but it would be really disingenuous to pretend that a sector that has $1 trillion of accumulated wealth is not shaping the world that we all live in. Further, if we really want a serious offense that challenges the anti-rights, fascist, and autocratic regimes sweeping nations, it's imperative that we fund feminist movements like we want them to win. The world we're contending with now didn't pop up in a vacuum. The opposition has been significantly funded, with conservative estimates saying over 270 million has gone to anti-rights organizations since 2007, with $54 million of this in Africa alone. These are all agendas that undermine and attack gender justice and the hard-won rights. We are a counter to this, but we recognize that we cannot do this work alone, and we are organizing within and calling on philanthropy to help build out an ecosystem of funders who are really flanking Black feminist movements and are really flanking movements most marginalized that are ushering the true social justice. I'll close just by saying that one of our co-founders, 𝗕𝗿𝗄𝗏, says that Black feminist movements offer a solution to a world in crisis. And it's true. The transformative work of feminist movements will persist with or without philanthropy, but this moment demands more than business as usual or just performative allyship. Funders who are really about justice, equity, and liberation must rise to meet the urgency of now and join us and our sibling fund in the work of moving resources boldly and unapologetically in service of social justice movements. Not later, not cautiously, but now. Thank you.